Okay, let's do Elliot Hulse. Elliot Hulse with his 5 skills for men when stuff hits the fan. This is his video about basically apocalypse prepping. So let's see how Elliot is going to survive. Daddy Sume with a bit. I sent some to Jake and Sarah. Not me though, you monster. MMO addicted with 25 bits. I bet if you went, quote, want to try baking together, maybe you can teach me and I'll bake for you sometimes, end quote, instead of female make me cookies, she'd bake more. Yeah, probably. Funny how that works. Are durians like your version of BoJack's honeydew hatred? Have you... random guy. Have you smelled a durian or eaten it? I'm not exact. No one likes durian except people who grew up eating it. It's like, you're literally now not allowed to bring it on airplanes and stuff because it smells so bad. It's like called the fart fruit. It smells like, I'm not kidding. Please look this up. Heck, we can do it right now. Real quick before the video. Here's a bonus. Durian trying. 100 people tried durian. The smelliest fruit in the world. It's bad. It's so bad.
Seems pretty harmless right now. I'm not sure what all the hullabaloo is all about.
Ah, is it soft?
I feel like this is how we're gonna die. Like an alien's gonna...
Does it smell?
You smell that?
I can start to smell it.
Oh no!
It smells like a fart.
It's not bad. It kind of smells like a melon.
Oh, it smells like farts now!
Oh,
Oh my god.
it just smells like wet garbage. Trash.
HHHH9998 Hannah, I didn't grow up eating it and I love durian. What the heck?
Old eggs, cantaloupe.
It smells like rotting garbage. I'm not being hyperbolic. That's what it smells like to me. Is this like a kind of food where like a small percentage of the population like tastes it differently than from everyone else? Because I don't understand how you can put durian in your mouth and think like, yep, this is good. It's like putting garbage in your mouth.
Passion fruit, old refrigerator.
Oh.
It's like we opened up like a dead chicken or something. This looks like mayonnaise and body parts.
It looks kind of pussy, right? Oh, why'd you have to say that?
So I don't know what part you're supposed to eat.
Ew!
I actually don't think that I'm gonna be able to eat this.
So it is a genetic thing. Some people taste it differently. That would explain it. Daddy Sume with a bit. The durian wafers I got smelled like natural gas. They made the people I pranked think they had a gas leak. Yep.
1, 2, 3.
No.
It tastes like a banana and a pineapple. Melon with the texture of an uncooked egg.
It actually tastes pretty good.
You don't like it? It tastes f***ing terrible. Oh, I just got a weird one.
Definitely not worth the work.
It's kind of mean to you when you're trying to eat it.
It does smell good, but then you get like a whiff and it doesn't smell good. And then like parts of it does taste okay, but then you get a bite that's like not okay.
You can wear a nose plug and have...
Awful. Anyway, 5 skills for men when stuff hits the fan. This is how to prep, according to Elliot Hulse.
Yo, it's your bro, Yo Elliot here, back with another Q&A. Question from our IG subscribers. Wanted to know, Elliot, what do you think are the 5 most...
Do not send me durian stuff, seriously. It's not even for me, because, like, all I'll do is be like, ah ha ha, very funny, and I'll throw it directly in the trash. So first of all, it's a waste of food, which isn't cool. Secondly, like, we have a P.O. box. That's where people send stuff for us. That is not cool to do to the innocent postal workers, especially because a lot of that stuff sits in, like, the P.O. box for a while before we go and pick it up. Don't do it. I like, even if you hate me personally for some reason or think it's hilarious, you're just being mean to them, not me. It'll be something I come in contact with for 5 seconds, but they're gonna have to sit in a building with it in there for weeks. It's not good.
important skills for a man to cultivate these days? And so I like that question because these days are changing. They're changing real quick. And the things that I thought were important 5 years ago aren't so important. The things that I'm thinking about right now have to do with the current climate of chaos that this whole freaking world is falling into. Right, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, or you got your head in the sand, or you pretending like it's not going on,
Thanks for hosting,
me,
Pseudo-Sapien.
there's burning and looting in the streets. It may not be in your neighborhood, but it's coming soon.
Don't you love the scaremongering? Like, oh, even if there isn't protesting going on in your city, it will be soon, and it'll be violent. Like, no, probably not. Probably not.
There's going to be a collapse, economic collapse.
Daddy Sume, chaos, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
Food shortage, a whole global reset is what they like to call it.
What is with conservatives and this, like, fetishization of this idea of the global reset? Like, they're all little Tyler Durdens thinking we're gonna go back to some agrarian, peaceful society where people, you know, build tanning racks on the abandoned freeway and they're gonna make furs out of their kills. Like, no. If anything happened, for one thing, credit agencies aren't going anywhere. If the government switched over for some reason and government agencies if credit agencies continued to exist, they will do everything in their power to continue that chain of authority so that they can still collect debts from people. Like, unless there's a literal, like, complete destruction of the electrical grid and the data systems that we have that, like, keep record of things. And even then, I'd imagine there are probably hard copies of about everyone's debt. Their mortgages, their college loans, whatever. People aren't just gonna, like, forget your tens of thousands of dollars in debt, whether it's your mortgage or your college, just because the government collapses. Hate to break it to you. It would literally be apocalyptic if it were that situation. Like, literally 90% of the people on the planet would have to die in order for that to happen. It's just not happening.
And when there's that type of upheaval, there's that type of chaos and change going on in the world, and we're being pit against each other based on race, based on sex, we're being pit against each other in terms of the COVID. You're the boogeyman, and I'm the boogeyman, and everybody who ain't got a mask is a freaking boogeyman.
Yeah, because you're assholes who don't care about the safety of yourselves or your fellow human beings. It would take you 5 seconds and a little inconvenience to put a mask on and protect people around you in case you're carrying COVID. But you're a bunch of whiny little babies that refuse to do things to help other people. But I don't wanna! Too bad. People are gonna call you an a-hole, because that's what you are if you refuse to wear a mask.
So these are just indications, symptoms, and signs pointing to the inevitable continued degeneration and chaos that we're falling into. And given that, you know, I think the things that that a man needs to know and a man needs to be able to do are much different than even 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I had a different list, but this year I got the 5 F's list. 5 things that a man must do, know how to do, engage in on the daily during this time of debauchery. Number 1, fitness.
Debauchery? Do you mean debauchery? Or is debauchery a different thing? Let me look. I think he means debauchery. But he doesn't know what the word is.
I'll give you the list and then I'll go through them. Fitness, fighting, firearms, food, and females. About each one of those in a
So you need, what was it? Fitness, fighting, firearms. I'd argue firearms goes into fighting, but one's, I guess, like melee combat, and the other is guns. Fitness, fighting, firearms, fitness, females. Okay.
Moment number 1, fitness.
Not sure what you mean by females. I'm interested in what you're gonna say on that one.
When shit gets tough, when the shit hits the fan, when times are hard.
When can we get a female emote? Good question. We got a lot of emotes we gotta make.
Hard. Men gotta harden up. You gotta be physically fucking fit if you're gonna survive. That means you can't be dependent on 5 meals a day.
Big Booty Goth Queer. Oh no, sorry, read that one already. Bitter Mersank with 10 bits. Notice none of that involved making clothes, making shelter, being able to start a fire, being able to perform basic first aid, right? I don't get this either. All these, like, weird prepper people have this idea that, oh, to survive the apocalypse, we're gonna need to stock up on food and learn to be self-sufficient and da-da-da-da-da, and learn how to fight. Like, no. No. Those things are good. I get it. But the most important skill you're going to have to learn for if the, like, society collapsed, like, entirely, which is a situation in which no matter how prepared you are, there's a good chance you're gonna die anyway, just by chance, just because the situation is not ideal.
Funny about the tools of capitalism.
You're gonna need to learn how to cooperate with people around you. Like, you on your property alone with your family, even if you're the most self-sufficient, are not going to be able to thrive. You need to learn to work with other people, because if there was an apocalypse, you know what would happen? People would have to regroup together into new communities, and you'd have one person who's like, again, someone who makes clothes. You'd have another person who maybe does handle security for the area, because of course there probably would be people who might want to come along and take stuff from your community. You're going to want someone who can farm, someone who can build buildings or design buildings. You're going to want someone who can repair stuff, maybe vehicles. You know what I mean? Like, no one is going to be successful in a situation where, like, the entire human civilization has been upturned if they aren't able to work with others successfully. The worst kind of people in this situation are the people who, like, stocked up food and they have a shelter under their house and they don't want to interact or help anyone. They're not going to have a good time. All that's going to happen if you have a stockpile in your house and a shelter and a bunch of guns is that a community's going to come around and find you at some point with way more people, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to take those supplies and guns because we need them. You can come and live in our community if you want, but you're not going to hoard all this stuff. Not cool. Like, it's not... You cannot survive like that. Daddy Sume with a bit... Because if it's just your family, you would just grow old and die unless you become incest breeders. True. People really think it's just going to be The Walking Dead. Yeah. People are delusional.
You can't be dependent on all the luxuries and all the comforts that are associated with air conditioning and ease and softness of life.
And even so, I don't get the whole focus on combat. 2 of his Fs were about combat. Like, fighting and firearms. Firearms would certainly be helpful for hunting. I'm not disagreeing with you there, obviously. But, like, fighting? If you are in an apocalypse scenario, the last thing you're going to want to expend energy on is fighting. Fighting is something that ideally will happen maybe once every 10 years. Maybe some community is expanding into your territory or something. And even then, you probably don't want to fight. Why are you wasting human life when there's so little of it to go around because there's been some kind of terrible apocalypse? You know what I mean? Like, if someone comes to your community and says, like, hey, we're part of a large network of communities and we like to work together and try and pool our resources to an extent and share information and, like, we just want to make sure you're all okay. And if you're like, get off of my property, like, that's not going to end well for you. That's a really bad idea. You want to work together with people. Fighting should only come up if literally, like, a gang of raiders, like in Dawn of the Dead, a motorcycle gang comes up and they're like, we're gonna take your stuff. Which I don't think would be a super common occurrence. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. There are, like, people who do bad shit all throughout human history. I understand that. But more often than not in situations like that, you have people who are, like, conquerors. Someone like, if we're doing the Walking Dead comparison, like Negan, right? Like, Negan, at the end of the day, he's an evil person, but, like, his goal, at least in his head, is like, I'm gonna unite these settlements under my iron fist. And Negan is not unique, like, in history. Look at people like Genghis Khan, did awful, awful things, but, like, in his head, I'm bringing people together and we're all gonna follow my rules. Right? So that kind of thing would happen, but you're not fighting just roving gangs of, like, Mad Max villains. Daddy Sume with a bit. The most use you would get out of fighting would be in the immediate aftermath of the apocalypse. Then you just use survival skills, pretty much.
You gotta be hardened and fit.
If Tom Savini wanted you to be part of his biker gang, would you turn him down? I mean, Tom Savini got super eaten in that movie, so yes, I would turn him down. I'd be like, Tom Savini, you saw the movie. You made the special effects where they rip your head off and your vocal cords go as they stretch your head off your body. You know this ends badly for you.
Lifting, training hardens you up. I would put fitness and fasting together, right? Because I only got 5 of them, so fasting would be number 6. But I'm put it there with the fitness. Fitness and fasting, you gotta harden yourself up to the point where you don't need food every 5 hours. You don't need to eat constantly. You can go 2, 3, 4, 10 days without food if you need to, without cracking up, losing your mind. Most people, let's just say there's a food shortage, most people are gonna lose their shit within 72 hours because they've never skipped a fucking meal in their fucking life. They're so fat, nasty, and
MMO addicted is 25 bits. I mean, like my PC and my Eldritch campaign, she seeks to become a god and slay all other gods because she thinks humanity needs a stern but fair and loving parent god to guide it and ensure an eternal paradise. Yeah, basically. There are a lot of people in history who are like that. They're like, hey, like, my rule might be, like, really hard, but, you know, I'm trying to bring order, and I'm not casting any, like, moral judgment on this positively or negatively. It's history. What am I gonna do? But look at the Roman Empire. Same thing. Like, Roman Empire did a bunch of really messed up stuff. Look at crucifixion as a punishment. Disgusting. But, like, they also ended up bringing, like, plumbing to places, you know, aqueducts, and I don't know. I'm just saying, like, history's complicated, and future history, especially in a case where we, like, get off of, like, modern society, and if we were to drop back down to, like, agrarian and empire building in that way, things would also be very complicated, and I very much doubt there would be clear good and bad guys like that. You can see this stuff in, like, apocalyptic fiction, like The Walking Dead. Like, sure, you root for the people you're following, but at the end of the day, they do a lot of messed up stuff, too, so, I don't know. Daddy Sume, BS. Have you met the current generation? We're constantly worried about our bills and our food, and we're some of the most unhealthy. F this dude. Yeah, he's not the smartest.
Entitled that they've never gone a day without putting a morsel in their mouth.
There's nothing funny about the tools
You
of capitalism.
MMO addicted. Oh god, aqueducts. I had a PC once, an architect artificer, in a campaign where there was a fallen empire like Rome. They based all their research off a piece of machinery, which they thought was a badass weapon, but in truth it was part of a toilet. That's funny.
On the other hand, when you got your fitness right, because you're fasting and you're lifting and you're training, not only can you go days and days without eating, you can walk for days and days. That's one of the things I started picking up once again. Lately, I lift. Me and my wife, we lift, keep my family healthy. But lately I've been adding...
How is that gonna work? Elliot, in an apocalyptic situation where you think you're not gonna be eating for days and days at a time, you can't keep that up. Your muscle mass is going to diminish immediately because you're not constantly working at it, and you're not intaking calories to maintain that muscle mass. Like, what?
More walking in, because you never know when you might have to bug out, right? Let's say some crazy shit pops off, right? There's all kinds of explosions going on all around the world right now. I just saw one happen in Russia. They had that one in Lebanon. I mean, let's say some
the big explosion that was an accident, that wasn't like an attack. They just had a bunch of explosives in a really stupid place, and it blew up and killed a ton of people. It's tragic, but that's not an apocalyptic event. That's just manslaughter.
Shit just blows up in my neighborhood, and we got to get out. And all of our cars, maybe our cars don't work or something like that. I gotta be able to put on a pack, and I'll be able to walk.
Just because you can go without eating every day doesn't mean you should. No kidding.
I gotta be able to walk with my wife, walk with my children, be able to walk maybe for days. It will be a good idea to prepare your fitness so that you don't have to eat without freaking out, and that you can walk. You can walk, you can climb, you can crawl, you can sprint, You gotta be think.
I'm in Michigan. I don't think I'm gonna have to do a lot of climbing. It's very flat where I live. Heck, you know what? If the apocalypse happens, I'm just not gonna survive. I want everyone to know. Let's say it's 5 years from now. The apocalypse has already happened. 1% of you who've survived are sitting in a mud hut somewhere going, man, I wonder whatever happened to Hannah. Just assume I'm dead. If modern society collapses, I'm done. I'm giving up. I have no want to live in a society without Netflix. I'm not even kidding that much. Like, I won't have access to the hormones I want. I'm gonna get treated badly by people because the only thing that even protects trans people is basically the understanding that society doesn't allow you to murder us without some consequences if you get caught. So I'm either gonna get killed or assaulted or something awful. And like 3, hard labor's not for me. I'm good. I'm gonna bow out in the case the apocalypse happens. Enjoy your mud huts, folks. I hope you build a better society than the one that I left, but, like, I doubt it. You'll probably be living with a bunch of weird right-wingers who think that this is, like, QAnon's doing, and QAnon will become, like, the new primary religion on Earth. I don't want to be a part of that, so I'm good.
Think about training in the military. What you would be training for is analogous to being able to survive.
PK the Lost, no Hannah, you'll be our queen. That sounds awful. I'd rather be a dumb internet person like I am now with Netflix and like I can go watch Cobra Kai than queen of the mud mounds. Like, who cares? What am I queen of? Oh, you went hunting and you got another deer? Great. We're gonna have deer tonight and some corn. Jake can be in charge of the corn. And we just do... What do? We just sit around all day and work and have no entertainment except for like a 30-year-old Zune that someone found that they can hook up to some speakers they've like jury-rigged. And they're just playing, like, Kesha on repeat, because that's all that was on the Zune. No thanks. You'll not be queen, you'll be our entertainer, stand-up comedy. That sounds awful. I don't want to be apocalypse stand-up comedian. So what's the deal with roving bands of raiders? Why the hockey masks? You're not playing hockey. Boom, doon, 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 doon.
During chaos, right? Might not need to deadlift 700 pounds, but you might need to walk 7 miles or more. So you got fitness.
You can always kill for entertainment. Okay, I'll stick around if we all form a community and we get a Thunderdome together, and we're gonna call it the Thunderdome, obviously. And, like, I get to be the person that just sort of, like, sits up on a chair above the Thunderdome, and then when someone's, like, mortally wounded, I'll get up and I'll be like... And then they have to execute the person. That's it. I'll be that person, and then I'll stick around.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Random invite with 5 bits. I like it. 20 seasons of Hannah in the apocalypse, but it ends unfortunately sudden when a raider has a bad drinking habit. Ooh, Hannah and Jake for Thunderdome commenters. Yes. That, you know what? Maybe that's what I was born to do. Just to be an apocalyptic Thunderdome commentator. Daddy Sume, this is what you will be, Hannah. Hedonism bot for Futurama. Okay. Sure, fine.
And you got fighting. Fighting is...
I'll be Master and Jake will be Blaster. Does that mean I gotta, like, sit on Jake's shoulders and pretend to be his head? Like Master Blaster? I'd vote you leader of my post-apocalyptic society. Yeah, that definitely wouldn't go over well.
Being able to protect yourself with your fist. That's really what I'm talking about. Fist fighting. And I'm not saying you have to become a pro boxer. I'm not saying that you got to take Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu classes and become, you know, a blue belt or some shit like that. What I'm basically saying is that you got to be able to knuckle up just enough to keep somebody off you. So even if you just take a couple classes on how to, you know, go, like for example, I never learned how to fight. It was one of the things that I did. I played football, I was a strong man, but I never did boxing.
Captain Seculoid, thanks for continuing your subscription. 4-month streak, 4 whole months, and Hannah's already making Road Warrior gang plans with Chad.
So I took some Muay Thai classes and I discovered something. A lot of you guys will know this shit, but I didn't know it. You gotta keep your knuckles up, right? Or you get knocked in the jaw. I see a lot of guys fighting and they do dumb shit like this. Or they get to keep their knuckles down. If you're in a shit hit the fan situation, which is inevitable, it's coming. You gotta be able to knuckle up, keep your fist up. You gotta be able to move, you gotta be able to jab, you gotta be able to hook. Real basic shit. Punching and kicking. I probably wouldn't get into wrestling or jiu-jitsu too much because I don't wanna fight. I wanna fend you off. So just basic knuckling up skills. That's fighting. Number 2, firearms. You gotta know how to use a firearm. You gotta know how to pull a trigger. You gotta know how to breathe when you're about to blast.
99% of the time in the apocalypse, if you're using a gun, you're going to be using a rifle to hunt. You do not need to learn how to, like, be a combatant unless you're literally talking about the first 48 hours after an apocalypse. No. Unless you're a bandit. I guess if you're going to be a bandit, you probably need to know how to use a firearm more often, but...
Someone or something. You never know, right? Because you might need the firearm to protect yourself, and you might need it to feed yourself, right? Which brings us to number 4, which is food. But let's stick with firearms for a moment. Look, a lot of people have a lot of aversion to firearms, and that has been purely conditioned because...
Natty Sume, these are the guys who are going to become raiders. No kidding.
Because it is a God-given right to be able to protect yourself. You need to be able to protect yourself. You got to be able to at least measure up to what the bad guys got, and all the bad guys got guns. You think you're so high and mighty and holy and you're a holy roller so that you don't need guns. Think again, dude, because the bad guy ain't thinking that way. If you live in a state, if you live in a country, if you live in a freedom-loving American city...
I don't have anything, for the record, I don't have anything against people like... My views on gun ownership have changed a lot over time. I'm fine with people owning guns. I don't really care. I think it's a good thing to own, especially if you're, like, on the left politically. Just know, people on the right own guns. So, maybe be prepared in case you need to defend yourself, in case a bunch of QAnon crazies decide to, like, stage, like, domestic terrorist attacks or something. I think responsible gun ownership is fine. We can talk about, like... magazine size and limitations in order to keep people from, like, doing mass shooting events, but I think that's more like a mental health and socioeconomic thing. So, I don't know. I think having, like, rifles, especially stuff like bolt-action rifles for hunting, perfectly fine. Like, handguns for protection, fine. I'm more partial to something like a revolver than, like, a semi-automatic pistol, but, you know, whatever. I don't care. Get a gun if you want. Protect yourself. I don't really care. Do what you're gonna do.
You gotta exercise the Second Amendment right. You must. It is your God-given right. It is something that you must do. It ain't something that's arbitrary. It's like learning how to feed yourself. It's like fitness. Look, we all know that if you train, you can protect you train your body to have a healthy body. But if you don't train to protect your body, that body can get wiped out any moment, right? You gotta be able to knuckle up, and you also know how to bust guns. That's, you know.
I've thought about getting a gun for protection, just a small one, specifically because I'm trans. And, like, the trans murder and assault rate is so high. If I end up in that situation, I can't fight. I'm physically not imposing at all. I have no upper body strength. I had no upper body strength before the hormones, much less now. So, like... I'm thinking about getting something just for self-defense to, like, carry in a purse or something. I don't know. What do you guys think? You think that's a good idea? Or nah?
There's nothing funny about the tools.
Most revolvers are semi-automatic these days? Oh, I didn't even know that. I don't know a ton. I gotta go do classes if I decide to get a gun. There's a place near me that does classes when you buy guns, so I'd probably get a gun there, and then also get the classes and everything, both safety and, like, They have class specifically for, like, concealed carry stuff. Daddy Sume, okay, this guy is really depressing me. I'm gonna go play Total War 3 Kingdoms after I do my chores. Was that Super Chat sponsored? It sounded like an ad read. Have fun, Daddy Sume. Probably should. A lot of people are like, yeah, probably. Alright, fair enough. Yeah. Just carry an AR-15. Yeah, no one would probably mess with me then. And I'll probably be safe because I'm very white. So I don't think the cops will mess with me. Revolvers don't usually have safeties? Oh, I didn't know that. If I ever somehow managed to live in the middle of nowhere, I'd get a better gun. Isn't there a stat where you die by your own gun a high amount? Yeah. I don't think of it that way though, because I'm not gonna self-inflict a gunshot wound on myself personally. Not worth. Daddy Sume, or I'll go play Raid Shadow Legends, available now on Google Play and iTunes. Funny. An ad read and a donation. That's like the endless void of capitalism.
Basic.
I've shot a gun before. It was just like a .22 that I shot at like my uncle's house, but I haven't really had a lot of experience with guns. And I've shot a rifle once, I think, when I was younger. Claire the Egg with 10 bits. What are the stats for others using your firearm against you? I have no idea. If you need, I can make recommendations for firearms at some point, maybe. I'm not getting one anytime soon. It would be a while from now. I got a bunch of stuff I got to deal with first. I still got to get my car fixed. I have a bunch of other stuff I need to deal with before I get a gun.
Basic manly shit. It's not about being a tough guy. It's not about, you know, walking around waving your pistol and shit. It's about being able to be able to use a tool in an effective way, right? I would say the same thing about a hammer or jackhammer or a saw, right? You got to be able to use these tools in order to survive, right? You need a chainsaw. You can't, rely on daddy or the government, or you might not be able to hire somebody to do something like that. Tools. So I put guns right in there, firearms right in there, all kinds of survival tools.
Presumably, though, within the first 6 months, if there was an apocalypse, little communities will start to pop up, and those communities, if you live in one, will have guards. People who are police, even. I don't know if they would still call them police, or if they'd be I don't know. But, like, this is how human beings work. We intrinsically, as a social species, want to form communities. And when we form communities, safety is, like, a big part of what we want. Like, that security is part of why we group together. So, like, I get it. I get this, like, weird fantasy of, like, ooh, I'll be badass, and it's gonna be the apocalypse, and I'm gonna shoot a bunch of people. It's a weird fantasy, and I think it's bad, because at the end of the day, like, if I were in a situation, whether it's someone breaking into my house or whatever, even someone who was trying to assault me on the street, if I had a firearm, shooting them would be the last thing I want to do. I do not have some weird power fantasy where, like, oh yeah, I can't wait to get into a situation where I get to shoot someone attacking me. That I feel like a lot of these kind of, like, right-wing people seem to have. It's so weird. Like, I understand wanting a gun as long as you want to use it responsibly and only as a last resort. But this idea of, like, yeah, the apocalypse gonna happen and I'm gonna get to shoot a bunch of bad guys. It's such a childish, selfish fantasy. I don't get it. You got a yikes one?
So,
how to be oh no. Okay, we can watch that another time.
Tools that you will need to use to be a freaking man. I know you guys know how to charge your phone. I know you know how to type on the computer. I know you know how to upload a video and swipe for the right filter for your picture, but all that shit is not gonna be worth nothing when things go south, when there's a collapse, when there's a food shortage, right? So we got food as number 4, and when it comes to food, I'm talking about being able to forage, being able to hunt, being able to grow. These are things, listen, like I said, the past 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought this way. It's only been the past year or so that I've been shoring myself up in these areas. Trying to learn how to grow. I don't have a green thumb, but I'm trying my best. I got sweet potatoes growing all in my backyard, vines all over the place. First time I'm ever doing it. Because if it comes down to it, and I gotta be able to feed my family, at least I could dig up them roots and chew on them. Right? You gotta be able to grow something. You gotta buy some books or watch some YouTube videos on how to forage, right? There's a lot of food out there in our world.
Wait, weren't you just like shit talking people who know to use how to use technology, and now you're asking them to go online in what is basically like super Library of Alexandria to figure out how to do stuff? Wouldn't it behoove you, maybe? Like, if I were creating like a survival guide, I'd probably be like, all right, here's what you need to do. Have a special device, like an old iPod Touch or something, and then get one of those solar chargers, because they sell chargers you can get that are entirely solar, and you can charge your phone with them. Load that device up, download as many survival-based YouTube videos, whether it's like tips on farming, how to build like sturdy fences, how to, I don't know, build like latrines in a way that's sanitary, how to build basic shelters. I think there's an entire YouTube channel that shows like how to build a lot of stuff like this. Download as many of those videos as you can, put them on this device, save this device, put a strong case on it, and then if the apocalypse happens, you can use those videos to help people out and yourself and your community, and then you can charge it with the solar thing until it dies. And then hopefully you can get, maybe learn how to repair a solar panel. That's one of the videos you should put on the thing, and then study that one. I don't know, just like the idea that like, oh, technology bad, but also use technology how to survive. Seems kind of hypocritical.
Environment that you don't even know is food, right? You could eat certain plants that you could eat. You have to be able to forage, and you gotta be able to hunt, right? I bought me and my son some air rifles. Just little airsoft rifles, you know, shoot BBs. Cause look, if it comes down to it, I'll eat squirrels. I'll feed my family with squirrels. I'll shoot rabbits, I'll shoot squirrels, I'll shoot rats. Maybe not rats. But I'll shoot little animals. I'll shoot these birds, you know, like we got these beautiful lovebirds, doves that live up and around my house. They, sure enough, they will be on a spigot. I will be eating them if the situation calls for it. And then finally, women. Females.
Females!
Shit hits the fan. All this gender equality bullshit is gonna go out the window, because when it boils down to it, a woman needs a strong man.
This is the thing that frightens me the most about the idea of an apocalypse. Strong men douchebags like this are gonna be like, all right, gender equality's over. Like, why? Why? Why would that be the case? Women have worked on farms for most of human history. Like, they also do house stuff. But there have been tons of instances in history where women also, like, till fields and stuff. The fact that society no longer exists doesn't mean you get to start treating women like second-class citizens again. What is wrong with you?
And when the shit hits the fan, all that I can do it, strong, independent woman shit is gonna go out the window.
Why? Can your wife not use a gun?
You need a man. Done.
That's it? That's your only commentary? Genius. Elliot Hulse is an idiot. He's not only an idiot, but he's a LARPer who likes to imagine a society in which he gets to tell women, alright, feminism is over, go back into the kitchen because there's no iPhones anymore. As if that makes any sense.